The Biden administration extended unemployment benefits in their bill, and the other talking point is government created unemployment. Nobody's going back to work right now, not because we haven't reached a 50% immunity level in terms of vaccinations, which mixed with the people who've already gotten it could put us at about 70% herd immunity, which would get us closer to being able to be out and about. Even though if you've had it, you should also get the vaccine because it protects you against the variants and you don't want to get sick a second time and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot in there, but this is the other general talking point that just by extending this, you're basically, this is what the laziness dividend.
Everywhere I went, as I interacted with small businesses, we did a lot of focus on recipients of PPP and how the program had helped them. Everywhere I went,
I only went to Republican right-wing supporters organizations, which were full of asshole bosses who treat their employees like shit. And oddly enough, they're not going back to their business. I mean, the place across the street is open. Huh.
Where I went, I heard the same thing from people that didn't know each other. There's no way that they...
Yeah, it couldn't be that you were self-selecting out anyone who might disagree with you.
Coordinated on this message. And it's went something like this. We have 50 job openings. We can only get 5 people to even respond. Only one will come in for an interview, and then they didn't take the job when I offered it. Over and over and over again, hearing that from small businesses in various sectors. So not just restaurants and hotels and hospitality, but various other sectors as well.
Like?
Including one manufacturer. And when I asked, well, why is it? Why are people
why is that?
They're not going to do it?
Why? Why are they not coming in?
And the answer that people gave them was,
look, I pay $5.75 an hour. The place is very dangerous. It smells like horse manure. And back when people were living on the edge and didn't have another option, they had to put up with this shit, and I was able to exploit the fuck out of them. But now that they've got some wiggle room, they're looking for a real job. It's really driving me crazy.
I'm receiving unemployment benefits. It pays maybe not as much as I was making working, but pretty close. When those run out, I'm going to go back to work. That's what we're being told by small businesses. It's not what I'm...
You what? So you're talking to the small business owners, and they're not going back to... Okay.
I'm not having a press conference here with you today to tell you that's what I believe. It's what I'm being told. So I'm here to tell you...
I'm being told this by the people who donate to my campaign and support me as a candidate and will let me come in and use their business as an example of my own political ideology. And I haven't gone into any of the businesses that are thriving blocks away because those people would tell me to go fuck myself.
Tell you what small businesses are telling me, and I believe are telling everyone that's here.
By the way, hold on one second. Let me clarify something. Hold on. Okay. Go away. All right. Let's see. There you go. Inflation adjusted. Okay. What site is this? This is USA Facts. All right.
And that is it.
Hold on. Let's see this. Okay. How many people earn the federal minimum wage? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 1.6 million workers in a country of 340 million earn, or 1.9% of hourly paid non-self-employed workers earn wages at or below the federal minimum wage. And the at would be any job that isn't a tips job. The below is any job that you get tips for. No non-tip job gets below minimum wage, the federal minimum wage. The only way you get out of the federal minimum wage is if your employees receive tips. That year, let's see, earned wages below the 2019. That year, 82.3 million people were paid hourly rates, making up 58.1% of all wage and salary workers in the United States. These are the people who get paid by the hour as opposed to a salaried position. Fewer Americans today make the let's see, In 1980, when the federal minimum wage was $3.10, which would be $9.86 in 2019 dollars, 13% of hourly workers earned the federal minimum wage or less. Today, only 1.9% of hourly workers make under the federal minimum wage, make less than $7.25. So the number of federal minimum wage workers has decreased from 7.7 million to 1.6 million in 2019. This is partly due to states establishing higher minimum wages than the federal level. So this is where the pickup happened, okay? Share of hourly workers that are getting it. Here we're talking 1980, 15% of people who were working on an hourly wage were at or below federal minimum wage. That has gone down over the years, increasingly, to right now, as of the 2019 numbers, only 1.9% of workers get at or below below $7.25. And again, largely tips based. Now, a lot of the people who get the $7.25 are also in tips jobs. They just are the higher ranking tips jobs. So they're at a chain restaurant, somebody that pays $7.25, but they also, the reason they keep their staff is because the staff can make $15, $20 an hour because they're getting tips, right? And they don't have to share this. This is Bureau of Labor Statistics. So in counting for inflation, the federal minimum wage was at $10.47 $10.47 per hour in 1979. So what it would cost inflation-wise, federal minimum wage unadjusted for inflation and adjusted to 2019 dollars. Debatable though, because now you can have a phone that's a computer, and now computers are available in the home, and now flat screens are $325 instead of $7,000. So there's what this really tacks to, the federal minimum wage a lot of times, and the big problem with low wages in this country, more than any other factor, is housing. Food availability, cost of food. I mean, the amount of calories available to a human being to sustain them, even at a lower level, and even fast food providing better food nowadays than it did, say, 30 years ago, is extraordinary by all measures. But what eats up everyone's money is their rent or their mortgage and commuting. Either the cost of maintaining a car, having insurance, and the gasoline, or the house themselves. Now, the car part, cities have sought to solve that over time. So while people didn't get a minimum wage increase, they did get better public trans over time, and that gave them the ability to move around. And so it took that cost away, so they didn't have to put that in there. So they're keeping more of that money. This is the theory. So, and then especially in areas that have train systems, so they add more trains, it just makes it easier for people to get there, and you get a lot of cities have bus passes that don't cost you anything if you're in lower income. If you are minimum wage, you can get a bus pass that is free for you and every member of your family, so that transport cost gets even smaller. So the adjusted for inflation part that you hear a lot in this argument doesn't really hold water compared to this. So this is the federal minimum wage, 1968, $1.15. This is the inflation adjusted. You could buy $8.52 worth of goods now with $1.15 in 1968. That's the theory, right? So here's $10 in 1979 when you were getting $3. With $3, you could buy $10 worth of stuff. Then that started to get closer and closer. So, $5.15 in 2007, you could buy $6.38 worth of stuff. Now, unadjusted for inflation and at the federal minimum wage, it's nearly 1-to-1. The goal would be to get this, as far as the availability of goods, below whatever the federal minimum wage is. And this should be what it should have been from the very beginning. So this blue line, in terms of modern day stuff, like you'd want it to be 1-to-1 or below that. Like you can actually afford on minimum wage to put a little money aside, right? Over time. The federal minimum wage doesn't cover all people, a lot of times it's, tip adjusted. Yeah, there you go. For example, federal minimum wage for tipped employees is $2.13 an hour, as long as that amount plus tips received equals at least the federal minimum wage. So again, that's another part that's left out of the conversation a lot of times about this, is that when you're dealing with people who work at a tip place, now, I mean, there's an honor system with the boss, there's whether or not the people feel secure in their jobs. Talk about that. This is really, a bigger conversation. But that's the law. The law is, yeah, you can pay them $2.13 an hour, but it has to be in a situation where the tips reach at least that. If the tips don't clear that, you got to give them $3 because they're only getting $4 worth of tips an hour, that kind of idea, right? So I don't know what the flexibility in it that is, and certainly during COVID, it's going to reshape things for a little while. Workers 20 years old and younger may earn $4.25 for their first 90 consecutive days of employment because you invest in teaching them how to do stuff, running the fryer, that kind of stuff, and then they decide they hate it and they go home. So you haven't paid them as a full-time employee while you've been teaching them how to do that. Or they go to another, you teach them how to work the fryer, you're paying $4.25, and then you've taught them how to do it. The other place pays $5.25, and they come in there and they don't have to be taught to do it. They can say, I already know how to work this. I got work experience. And he paid for it. Right. That's the argument for the $4.25. Plus, federal minimum wage law only applies to employees of enterprises with an annual gross volume sales of at least $500,000 or certain types of smaller firms, insurance, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of, like, repair shops. There's lots of stuff in there. Here's where it gets interesting. 5 states have no minimum wage laws, which means they fall to the federal. The federal sets the standard for their state. While 2 states have minimum wage below the federal levels, doesn't matter. They can't opt out of it in that regard. These are the other states that are that have it or are on their way up. There's Georgia with the 515. It's below it, that kind of thing. These are not applicable. They don't have a minimum wage. Again, it defaults to the federal minimum wage. Over here, let's see. California has a very dense breakdown. $13 an hour if you have 25 or fewer employees. It increases 14 to next year and 15 by January 2023. So California is on the same arc to a $15 minimum wage as Arizona is, for example. $14 for employees with less than 25 will increase to 15 on January 1st, 2022. And then there's a lot of these, any place like here defaults to the federal. And then Georgia has its own, which still, you still get the federal. I don't know what the hell I just don't think they update it or something. That's a curious thing worth looking into. But you'll see all this baseline 725. Louisiana doesn't have one, so it defaults to the federal one. Maine's 1215, Maryland's 1160. Massachusetts $13.50. Michigan is $9.65 minimum wage. It's going to $9.87 per hour in the first calendar year following a year in which the annual unemployment rate was lower than 8.5. So basically, they use it as it's incentivized raising of it. So when you talk about the fight for 15, one of the reasons why you'll see pushbacks from like Kristen Sinema, for example, in Arizona, is they're already on their way to doing it. Arizona's at 12.15, but they have a strategy towards 15 almost identical to California. I don't know why it's not written out here, but they have a 3-year plot to $15 an hour. And by the way, again, this only applies, all of this only applies to 1.9% of workers in the country. The rest of workers, which make up 51% of the workforce that do get paid an hourly wage, are at or above it, and many of them much more than that, including tipped people who are above that because of the environment that they work in. So 1.9%. The debate about this, and when they talk about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, the concern with employers that you'll see a lot of pushback on is not that people who are in that 1.9% of workers are going to get $15 an hour all of a sudden. It's that everybody else is going to go, well, I'm a manager and now I'm making the same as a server. I worked here for 10 years to get to be a manager, and you're telling me I'm not getting a raise too? The hell with that. I'm going to go work at a better restaurant or a better hotel that will pay me what I'm worth, and now you've got management less people at that baseline. So there, anyways, okay. It's just a conversation that nobody has about this stuff, and he knows it. And let's see, what was Florida's? What was Florida's? Florida's is $8.65, so it's already above the federal minimum wage.
That is that enhanced unemployment benefits are creating an incentive for people not to return to work until they expire.
Or until more than 50% of the people in their state have been vaccinated.
It's not because people are...
Because nobody's going to work for just above minimum wage or take some transitional job till their old business comes back, or they can start their business again, because they're not going to die for that.
Lazy. I'm not accusing anyone of being lazy. It's because people are logical. Because it's logic that if you're going to make close to what, or as much, or in some cases more than what you do when you're at work, you'll go back to work when that expires. We have a labor crisis in this country. I have a small business owner, owns a handful of restaurants in Miami, who has...
Yeah, and we're going to hear an anecdotal story. It's just what I was talking about. Anecdotal story from a friend of his who donates to his campaign, who's the owner of the restaurant, who wants to pay shit wages and is shocked people don't want to come back and work for them.
Put up a sign on the door that says, due to the labor crisis, wait times for an hour or something along those lines, they just can't... A guy calls every day. We're having a labor crisis. Just like small business in particular got hit hard.
Here's a good idea. Offer a temporary wage bonus for people who come back to work early. This is what I pay for the hourly wage at my restaurant. This is what it is. But for the next 3 months, I'm paying an extra $5 an hour. I guaranteed be full of people, and he would make more profits because he would be open earlier. It's not that there's a labor crisis in his environment. It's not that people would rather live off the government tit than go to work or whatever. It's that Marco Rubio's friends are dumb.
Hit hard during the pandemic when they were shut down. They're now being hit hard again by a labor crisis that's not allowing them to open up to the levels that are allowed by local authorities. I heard the arguments that some make, and a lot of people contort themselves into a pretzel to try to come up with some explanation that has nothing to do with the benefits. People are afraid of getting COVID. People have nowhere to put their kids. I can't speak to the rest of the country.
Because you don't care.
I can tell you in Florida, schools have been open since October, and you can literally walk into various retail establishments throughout the state and get a vaccine without an appointment. We now have...
And by the way, having just come back from Tallahassee, that is absolutely true. For all the bullshit that Florida hiding their numbers and doing all this kind of stuff, and we've been open and we're just open or whatever, they're clamoring to deal with COVID. They are secretly freaking the fuck out because of so many old people live in Florida. And because the government acted to vaccinate old people first, Florida benefited from that more than any other state. The number of old folks that got vaccinated because of the push to get old folks vaccinated benefited states with a lot more old people faster than other states, including Florida and Texas. Both states have a shit ton of old people in them, and they all got vaccinated early. So that's why they're like, we can open everything up, because they were under the impression that younger people can't get sick and died. And, and then they, of course, got spikes and all that kind of stuff. And of course we're sending the disease all over the rest of the country, because it's not like we're all Americans. But when I was there, I got even though I've been vaccinated, it was still policy to get a COVID test when I came to work on 12th night to start rehearsals and stuff. We still wore masks indoors when we were rehearsing. We were in a rehearsal space that had slide up doors like a big warehouse. And in working there, everybody was wearing their masks inside. Because I'd been vaccinated and because of the CDC guidance on this, I actually when the doors were fully open and we were basically outside because it was completely ventilated, I took my mask off for some rehearsals because of that. If other people were there that I didn't know, I would put my mask back on, because we'd all been tested. Many of us had been vaccinated, and so we could interact that way. We were taking precautions. When I showed up, it was the testing here in Vegas and in California was kind of a pain in the ass. But in Tallahassee, which of course is the capital, so you take this with a grain of salt. I don't know that it's that easy the rest of the state. I do know that government employees like Marco Rubio, who don't give a rat's ass about their constituents unless they vote for them, I'm sure that they don't care about the availability of this kind of stuff in general. The rest of the time, it's really, but you got to be safe where you're going, right? So in Tallahassee, rolled up, signed up on this thing, got a QR code, roll up. They had a system set up where I went to one window, got my kit, went to another window, they put a barcode on it. I did the swipe on one myself. They gave me 2 different types of tests. An hour later, I got my test and I was able to go to work. So all of this was incredibly smooth considering how this state seems to have been ducks and drakes with this whole nonsense over the last year, right? Also, everywhere I went, restaurants were full of people, and there were lots of people coming and going. The campus was full of people. There were people out in the parks. There were people were wearing masks in most places. They would take them off to eat, but I was in a coffee shop that had 8 people in it, sitting at tables like a normal coffee shop. Some of them had masks on. Some of them would take them down to drink. Some of them would take them off while they had food at the table and then put them on when they were done. People were taking precautions. But what he's talking about is like Miami and Tampa and all these tourist destinations where, temporarily they had an influx of people, or that people are like, oh, I've been vaccinated, I can finally go out. And then they don't have enough staff because they didn't staff up beforehand.
I have probably more vaccines than willing recipients. So
Thanks, Isabel.
I think it's important for us to acknowledge that we have a labor crisis, that a government program has exacerbated it, and it's time to address it because we are doing significant harm to the ability of these small.
Then tell Florida to stop extending UI. To send the money back. Say we have a labor crisis, but it's not related to COVID. We don't need to extend this. People don't need to stay home. We can cut this in half. We don't need the extension. You don't have to take it. Florida doesn't have to take the money. DeSantis does not have to take the money. I'll tell you why they're taking it, though, and why he's yammering about this is because the state takes that money into its account. Federal government's giving billions of dollars to states to extend unemployment insurance. Okay? Think about this. Your state creates bonds and has to pay interest on them, but uses the money initially. And if you can get a bond issuance where the bond is actually cheaper than the loaning out of it, some states and constituencies can take the money that they get from a bond initiative and loan it to a bank to loan to other people, make money off of some of the bonds by rolling them because they're going to get paid back because they're from giant institutions and they're in safe equity. So they get 2% on this one, but the bond itself the yield is only 1.5 when it was signed. So you're making 5% off this, and the money's still available for you to mess around with. States do this all the time. And in the case of Florida, the reason this money is sitting there is it sits in these UI accounts, and if it doesn't go out the door because they deny people those rights, if you fill out their thing and they go, yeah, we think you could probably get a job, that money sits in the state's accounts generating interest. The state is Florida's making money off the government funds sitting in their bank accounts.
Small businesses to survive, to the point where some of them, by the time people are ready to go back to work in these cases, some of these small businesses won't be there to take them because they won't make it there, given what
they got PPP. They just got a new round of PPP loans.
They've already lost. Brevemente le diré que hace unas semanas estuve en varias ciudades del estado de la Florida y en negocio tras negocio es el mismo mensaje. Ellos tienen trabajos disponibles y no pueden conseguir a nadie que venga a trabajar. Y las personas.
Remember this the next time someone shits on a Democrat for jumping into Spanish on Fox News, just for the record. Thanks, Salvatore. What would you do, Salvatore? And this is thank you for noticing, but you're a mayor of a city, and you pass a bond initiative to help your schools, and that money sits in an account until it's ready to go. And some of these projects may be 6 to 8 months away. So for 6 to 8 months, you can't even touch that money to send it anywhere because the contracts have to be filled out. The primary people have to pass security checks and all this other stuff before you can license these people to build a road or a bridge or reshore up something. So that money sits for 6 to 8 months. What are you going to do as a city manager? You're going to put it in a bank account, gaining interest. A lot of times the interest on that, depending on where you put it, will be more than the bond issue itself. So the city makes money on it. You wonder why some cities drag out how long it takes them to finish a friggin' project? That's why. Because if they don't allocate the money, it sits there gaining interest, and the interest they're going to pay on it is static. It stays the same no matter what. It doesn't go up over time. It only bonds mature and then you pay it. It's not like a credit card.
Recibiendo los beneficios que en muchos casos paga más de su trabajo no van a regresar. Yo no digo que las personas.
By the way, you're upsetting the other Republicans by speaking Spanish. It's very frightening to them, and one of them is gonna think you have an MS-13 tattoo on your neck and jump you.
Son vagas. Yo creo que las personas son lógicas, que están usando la lógica. Eso no es lo que yo estoy diciendo. Yo no estoy inventando esto.
It's logical. He's just repeating what he said before, by the way.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, how are you?
Appreciate you coming out and covering this
I'm glad to be here. I got my tie from the taffy store, and they are having trouble getting people to work there.
story. We have 8.1 million open jobs across this country right now. 8.1 million, that's 500,000 more jobs than we've ever had open before, a record going back to 2018. Sat down, done over 20 town halls, visited with hundreds, maybe thousands of business owners. Their number one concern, the number
dozens.
one challenge for the economy now is getting people to come back to work.
That's why we're trying to get everybody vaccinated. That's why you want to hit a 70% number by July 4th, so that by the time these the June 15th date in California, or the June 9th date, I think it's here in Las Vegas, which they might move up to June 1st. Once you start that, then these folks can go back to work because they're not worried about catching something for minimum wage. No one wants to die for minimum wage, you dipshit. And the minimum wage jobs that you're talking about, these close to the margin ones, are the ones where the people who don't believe this is a real threat, don't wear masks, don't believe in COVID, won't get vaccinated. Those are the first places they will go to.
In the state of Kansas, they have a maximum of a $500 per week state benefit, and then we're adding the $300 from the federal government, $800 a week. That comes out to about a $40,000 a year job. And then if you have a spouse, maybe they're getting another $40,000 a year as well. That's $20 an hour, in case you haven't done the math yet. And just frankly, there's a lot of jobs that weren't paying as much of that. I've talked to multiple owners. They've raised the wages 10%, 20%, and even paying child care workers to come back so we have child care so people can go back to work. They're just being paid more to stay at home. I also wanted to share, though, that
Why are child care workers making less than $25 an hour? Seriously. Why is that not considered a very high-level job? Looking after children. Why is, we'll have the conversation about teachers' wages again at some point. But just think about kindergartens, preschools. That the people who work there, who are looking over 8, 10, 15, 20 children, infants in some cases, are making less than $25 an hour to take care of your kids as a group.
Although that I have some empathy and concern about some of the other challenges for America. It's not just about decreasing the unemployment insurance. There's also other issues that we can face as
Yeah, let's get to, that's not the only thing. Not kicking people off of UI before his state. And by the way, the reason why the Republicans are freaking out about this is because the blue states are already on this. They're extending UI benefits. I got a notice that my unemployment, insurance benefits have been extended in California. I'm not taking them because I created a job during COVID, even though my other jobs got wiped out because you can't tour and production got shut down. I probably, in some way, I probably could find a way to wiggle around and get my unemployment paid out to me because I'm, is this a real job? Whatever, getting paid in Venmos and Super Chats or what have you is very, variable, right? But I'm not going to take that money. It's sitting there in California's account gaining interest. I'm not touching it. Now, I don't know if at some point they're going to give it back or if the federal government, I think, would say any unspent UI that's related to the COVID thing should go towards shoring up your medical facilities or making sure that you have child care or something like that. Right? The problem these red states have is they only have these kind of jobs.
As well, and one of them is just making sure.
I have a chat room full of managers. Right now, I have 515 managers on YouTube alone.
All of our kids are back in school.
If you want any of the trolls want to talk to my manager, here they are.
I used to sign a paycheck for 300 nurses. And if one of those kids was sick and they had to go home, it was a huge problem for the rest of the hospital. So I understand that we need kids back in school, and we need definitive leadership from the White House and the CDC. They're very ambiguous. They need to be very clear that it's safe for kids to go back to school.
Because it isn't clear. It is not clear. It's becoming increasingly clear, but you give somebody a shot and they're like, I feel fine, cool, let's go do some shit. And then 3 weeks later you go, oh yeah, that actually was that was a placebo. And then they go catch it and die.
The next thing I hear about is...
Kareem, we're gonna need you to come in Saturday, okay? I do come in on Saturdays, I'm just saying.
Child care.
And a few Sundays.
Once upon a time, we were living 1,500 miles from our nearest relative. I was an obstetrics resident working 100 hours a week. My wife was a neonatal intensive care nurse working 12-hour shifts. We had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. I think even after 37 years of marriage, my wife and I would say child care was still the toughest challenge that we've ever had. Solving child care at the federal level...
Yeah, and you were rich as fuck. Exactly. They're both in very high salary medical positions. And he's like, man, getting a good babysitter.
Very, very difficult. I know that some of the folks up here have tried to help with that. We doubled the tax credit for...
By the way, when he says he's working 100 hours a week, he means being on call. So while he's sleeping and when his beeper goes off, he considers that work. He's going to bill you for that.
Child care back in the 2017
He owned a hospital. Jesus.
Republican-led tax cuts bill as well. The other thing we've tried to focus on the ag committees is making sure there's extra nutritious opportunities for preschool kids, breakfast for children at school, backpacks to go home with the weekend. So there's things we can do at the federal level, but I'm proud of those people back home trying to solve this problem on their own. One great...
Yeah, with federal money, dummy.
Example, Salina, Kansas, the YMCA hooking up with local business owners. Other folks forming co-ops.
I guess it is fun to stay at the YMCA. They were hooking up with local business owners. Maybe if they stopped fucking around and knocking boots with people from the YMCA, they get some work done.
For their child care. So that's a hard nut to crack from the federal level, but I certainly have empathy towards that challenge.
Well, then do something about it. Basically, you just cursed the fixes in the infrastructure bill that would solve the problem you actually just admitted was even a problem for high-income earners. Now, add on top of that, if you had a grandparent who was at home and you could not afford to put them in a place for mom. Jesus. Imagine being this lost.
Next question I hear about people concerned is they don't have the training for the jobs that are out there. Listen.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Both Biden's rescue package and the infrastructure bill have training in them.
Listen, move to Kansas. We got the best community colleges, technical colleges in the world. In 2 years, we'll have you a job making $50,000 or $60,000.
Yeah, and during that 2 years, though, your kid you'll have to leave your kid in the car while you work at Taco Bell to scrounge out a living so that you can go to that community college. Hey, I'm kidding. He means only people of means moving there, and no one's moving to Kansas to go to community college.
A year, the cost of living is inexpensive, and we'll get you a part-time job as well.
Oh, will you? You'll get them a part-time job as well. So I guess there isn't a labor shortage in Kansas? Hey, Floridians. I don't know how to say this in Spanish, but maybe move to Kansas, because apparently all the shit that Marco Rubio was whining about is not a problem in the middle of the country.
what else is going on. I think this is the last one I want to talk
What else do I want to talk about? What are you, an open mic comedian? Jesus.
about why people aren't going back to work. They're living in fear. They're anxious. The biggest mental health crisis I've ever seen in some 30 years as a physician is going on right now. And part of the challenge right now is the message from the national meeting is a message of fear and doom. We need White House leadership. We need CDC leadership to...
They do. Trump got all the CDC leadership that he needed, and he didn't act on it. We're going to be at 604,000 dead in the next month.
To step forward and to truly lead. It's time to take the mask off. We need our president, we need Dr. Fauci to take their mask off. If you've had the vaccine,
Yeah, they... 30, 60, or 90 days after you complete a test on a form of medicine, a vaccine, a treatment, or whatever, you test along those periods of time to see if there's been any expansion of it. Because it's new and because you got an emergency use authorization, the reason it takes time and you have to wait those extra days because they're watching these people to see if they get reinfected, or if they indeed, even though they don't get infected themselves in a way that harms them, if they can just be a carrier for the disease, which would be fucking horrible, because everybody who got a vaccine would go out thinking they're just fine and they're not going to harm anybody, and then they end up murdering a third of the people they come in contact with. It takes time to know whether or not that's true. There is nothing wrong with going with the best available science on infectious disease and then going, oh, this disease is specific to these kind of things. We no longer have to worry about this, but we do have to watch out for this. This is not a failure of science. That's science itself. And nobody's being gloom and doom about it except you guys. The rest of us are just being realistic.
It's 95% effective. 99% of the people will never be even hospitalized if they're exposed to the virus. So the vaccine...
That's not true. 99% of the people who are exposed, you're going on numbers when people weren't being exposed. 99% of the people in America don't have anything to worry about because there's 13 cases in the country because it hadn't spread yet. It's an infectious disease. This asshole's a doctor. He should know better.
Vaccines work, but people don't have confidence because they're seeing the leadership live in fear and the national media playing that fear card. So we need leadership.
Fear card? Dude, it's realistic. Just wear a goddamn mask. It wasn't hard. This whole thing about like, oh God, our freedoms, our liberties. It's temporary. Christ.
As well, our bill that we've introduced will help solve part of the problem. It's going to pay people more to go to work than to stay home. These other issues need to be addressed as well. That's what's challenging our economy right now. Thanks for being here.
About a week.
By the way, a sliding scale, basically reverse taxation, has been presented a couple of times as a way of dealing with unemployment because a lot of people are afraid to, they're on unemployment. And then they get a job and they're making way less than they were making on unemployment. This has been around for a long time. That's where the idea of welfare queens and stuff came from. It's the idea that these people are making way more off the government level because it cuts off at a certain number. Instead of being a sliding scale that tips that balance to the point where you can grow out of it. It was just like, yeah, you make over this, you're done. We just cut you off. Well, then what's the point of making over that if I can lose my job in 3 months and I have to go back through, 3 months of paperwork again?
About a week and a half ago, my wife and I were driving through a town in Montana.
Great story.
And we saw balloons surrounding a small business. And I thought, well, this must be some kind of big promotion going on. It reminded me what you sometimes see in car lots to get the attention of people driving by. So we turned in.
They had that guy. Yeah, those things are sweet.
It turns.
Although they do look evil. Where's the Annabelle movie about the balloon men in front of car lots? I think who hasn't felt haunted by one of those things?
It was all about hiring. We were trying to get people to.
Yes, this was before the speech. And by the way, not only Snowy Bullets is this before the speech. They knew the CDC was coming out with these findings. All these guys were on the same panels. They knew this information was coming out. They knew the White House was going to make a statement. They jumped out ahead of it because they wanted to look like they were, I guess the prime drivers behind it.
To hire more people. It's the number one issue I'm hearing from my small businesses across Montana. We can't get enough people to fill the jobs. It is
That's because you only talk to right-wing nutcase assholes who don't believe in masks and run places where people are afraid they will go to work and die. I mean, I'm sure unemployment is an issue in Montana, but I'm sure it's also, if you look at the pie wedge of political leanings of the job, the business owners, the restaurant owners that are having trouble filling spots, it's going to be leaning right or full on right wing.
truly.
Yay, welcome new patron. Thank you. I don't recall anyone saying they had the flu this year. Exactly.
A labor crisis, not a job crisis. And anytime you're paying people more to stay home than to go back to work, it's going to create this perverse incentive. And as Marco said, this is not about laziness, it's about logic. You do the math, there's no reason to come back to work. I'm very proud of our governor.
Until it's safe. A lot of people just don't want to live on the tit. They don't. I mean, I believe they believe in the lazy part of it as much as they're selling that. By the way, I will finish this out, and then I want to show you guys some special treats from my playing of Malvolio in 12th Night. I have a couple of props that I would like to show you.
Governor in Montana, Governor Greg Gianforte, 9 days ago, he boldly stepped out and said we're going to end the federal unemployment benefit of $300 a week. He also
Yeah, why didn't Florida do that? Florida could have done that. That was my point.
said we're going to pay a $1,200 bonus if you come back to work. I'm pleased to report 9 other states, now 13, we just found out this morning, have joined Montana in stopping this $300 a week additional supplement that's causing people
Yeah, Florida could have done that too, but Florida wanted to keep the money.
to stay home. We firmly believe that people are better off to get a paycheck versus a government check. And we just heard a report this morning.
Which, by the way, they're getting a government check in the form of a bonus to go back to work, but he's leaving that part of it out. They're basically giving you 3 weeks of UI if you go back to work early.
From a motel in my state of Montana who said prior to Governor Gianforte's action in Montana, they were getting 1 applicant a week. In the last 72 hours, they've received 60.
So what you're saying is that government infusions of cash actually work to benefit the economy. Great. Thanks, bruh. Good story. Awesome. Way to clear that up.
It's starting to work.
Kudos to Operation Warp Speed.
Oh, my God. You can't just drop that on me in the middle of this whole thing. 1 second. Oh, God.
Captain's log.
Okay.
Because of Operation Warp Speed,
Damn it.
Captain's log.
All right.
we now have vaccinations. I saw an ad on the television the other day, doesn't matter what age, you can get a vaccination.
No, it does matter. You have to be over 16. I think 12 to 16 is now available in some places, or they're starting to test it, release it slowly. But no one's vaccinating 9-year-olds. I know. I have one.
Thanks to those schools that are opening back up. Iowa actually has had their children in school since August, so my nephews have the benefit.
And yet, she's been on the floor bitching about school closures and how the government's closing schools and the teachers' unions and blah, blah, blah. She's been shitting all over them, and they've been open the whole time.
Of going to school and being educated. We see coronavirus.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Joni Ernst. Homeschoolers, especially the Christian homeschoolers, that's child abuse. Just say it. Just say it. Homeschooling is child abuse. Say it with me, Joni Ernst. You can do it. You can do it. Admit to it, finally. That when kids don't go to school with other kids, they turn out weird.
Coronavirus cases decreasing. We see
That's right. It was 12 plus for Pfizer. 12 to 16-year-olds can now get the Pfizer one, but not the other ones.
Going down. People need to go back to work. So
Great. Then go to work. Then write a bill about cybersecurity with Lindsey Graham, because he's just on Fox News bitching.
Hear from Iowans every single day. Chuck Grassley and I, when we're out on that night.
Every time I go out to a restaurant, I find they go, Senator Grassley, why aren't there more people in my restaurant? I allow open carry, and no one wears masks, and no one wants to come in here, and I don't know why that is.
At 90.
It's a pretty solid Chuck Grassley. I just need, hold on, wait. I can improve it one way. Hold on. I can do one minor improvement that would improve my Chuck Grassley. Hold on. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Hold on. It's a little better. Hold on. Welcome to Iowa. I'm Chuck Grassley. Listen, you guys got to understand that this is frightening. And it smells funny. I feel like I could rob a bank in a Michael Mann film. I served for a long time with Joni Ernst, and she's given me some hair tips. But we are in Iowa. We've got a lot of going on for us here that's fantastic. And listen, I want everyone to go back to work, but I also, a lot of the jobs in Iowa involve corn and manure. And I'm talking about the jobs at Starbucks. All right, there we go. Sorry. Felt like I was in a Mission Impossible there for a second. Just tear that thing off.
99 county tour, doing those business visits.
A 99 county.
Schools,
I'm in a 99 county tour. All the counties in Iowa, using this as a campaign stop and helping my re-election campaign while pretending that this is really about COVID.
Our hospitals.
To do a Chuck Grassley, I what? Have to what? Sorry, hold on. Somebody scroll by. You need to look down at a paper and attempt to put your invisible reading glasses on. That's true. That's true.
Hear about the challenges the employers have. They cannot get people to return to work. Why?
Why? Let me see. Because all the restaurants that you go to that people will talk to you in are right-wing Republican-run places where people haven't been wearing masks, don't believe in it, don't believe in vaccines, and I guess you get a free AR-15 with every combo plate.
Why? Because of the expanded unemployment benefits.
Oh, that's why. Why would someone not go back to a job that pays better than that if they get the expanded? Okay.
I am so proud of our governor, Governor Kim Reynolds. She has joined Montana's governor in pushing back on the additional federal dollars for.
Yeah, why didn't Florida do that? Is this basically like a passive-aggressive shot at Marco Rubio? Is this all you guys you're going to run for president next time, and Marco Rubio's a little ahead of you, so you're just taking the piss? Is that what's happening?
Yeah,
I almost spit out my pop. Okay.
Expanded unemployment benefits. So Iowa is joining that march to get our economy back up and going. We will have people returning to work. We're really excited about this. It's the right thing to do. And so I'm really proud to partner with Senators Marshall and Rubio on their bill, making sure that Florida continues to take the UI money, that we are pushing back against the federal government incentive for people to stay home. There is dignity in a job.
Yeah, unless it kills you. Hey, but you got tips for 3 weeks before you coughed yourself into a coma.
And right now we are depriving our citizens of that opportunity.
Why? What happened to individual freedom? I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, why are Iowans and Montanans so frigging lazy? Why is it? Why are you having to pay them $1,200 to go back to work? I mean, why do you have such a low opinion of the people of Iowa that you think they can be bought out of the dignity of work for $1,200?
To work and provide for their family. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you do any of the jobs? Have you ever done any of the jobs that they are having a difficulty fill? Here's a good idea. I want you guys to stand up there, the Republicans to stand up there and go, here's a list of jobs that are open in my state. I've got a website for my candidacy, and we're doing a thing with local businesses. They won't do that. You know why? Because it's all janitors, toilet cleaners, fry cooks, migrant workers. Shit they would never do, and the rest of their constituents would go, Jesus, I wouldn't do that either.
Thank you. I've been here for...
Hello, I'm the representative televangelist of the Republican Party right now. I think it's very important that I look like the maitre d' at a key party.
4 months. You can't make this stuff up.
Yes, you can. I'm a very creative person. I can make up anything. What I can't make up is why you would wear a check shirt and a polka dot tie with a grid on it. Are you just trying to moray the cameras? Are you being passive aggressive? Plus, fabulous hair.
I thought the federal government was supposed to help the people.
They are. They're trying to keep them from dying or starving to death.
But we've got government versus the people.
Well, yeah, it's the worst attack on the American people you've ever seen, where they're giving them money.
I go to Alabama, and I usually go back and get patted on the back.
Do you now?
I'm getting chewed out now because we're up here giving money out.
That really? Sorry, Alabama, you get more in federal aid than you put out by a lot. If people aren't chewing this asshole out because of the cancer clusters in Alabama, then he doesn't even have a real job.
We don't need to be giving money out. We need to go back to work. We need to go back to school.
Then go back to work. Quit working in the government. Quit your government job. Doing a job that you think is not of the people and for the people. Politicians are absolutely disengaged from their constituents. Why? Go back to the private sector. Show us how it's done.
Government versus the people.
How? How is it government versus the people?
Last week, I go back and heard from 3 groups. We had job fairs last week, Coach. We had job fairs in our cities. Nobody showed up.
Yeah. For what jobs?
We've got hundreds of jobs. One guy said, I got 200 jobs. I'll give $1,000 bonus to start, $20 an hour, all health care. We can't get anybody to apply because they're sitting at home. Now,
I'm sorry. Free health care, $20 an hour, $1,000 bonus to sign up. What are those jobs? How much pig shit do I have to sift through? All that grease, and he's not getting any slide? What's happening? Oh, he said free health care. He meant that they get company health care. Yeah, I mean, besides the fact that he's lying.
some people need a check. But we have done this.
I look like Scott Stapp? No, I don't. My head's not that square. And you walk on, and your head on. Can you take me higher? I have a theory that Creed is Damn Yankees for people with no pipes.
Absolutely the wrong way. You don't
Yeah, no, buddy.
write a blank check for everything. You do it the right way. Our unemployment offices have jobs to do. If they're out of job, you go and you apply. But right now, we're just writing checks. I feel sorry for the people in small business because they're...
Alabama, turn it down. Dude, you just heard 4 states turn down that extra UI. Turn it down. Show us how it's done. Not in 6 months when work's coming back anyways. Turn it down now. Alabama, turn the UI payments from the federal government down. You have every right to do it. You do not have to accept it. Give it back. Say this is taxpayer funds from another state. This is all New York money. This is all California money. Give it back. Tell your constituents, go down there. You getting chewed out now? You think you're getting chewed out now? You're getting chewed out because of his donors.
They are going down every day. Every day. And it's embarrassing to me that I'm up here in Washington, D.C., and people are trying to get their lives back together. But we got President Biden last week gets on national television and says, these checks are not hurting people going back to work. President Biden, go back with me this weekend to Alabama and I'll show you.
I'll show you the laziest bunch of hillbillies you ever seen in your whole goddamn life.
I'll show you people are not
Thanks,
working
Cosmic
because
Rose.
of the checks. You need to get your advisors to get out of those offices and go to south or go west and go north and go east.
You mean go to the states that pay less and get more in federal aid than they pay in? You mean the states that are living off the tit of New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Seattle right now? And Dallas, quite frankly? Here's a good idea. Why don't you go down there and have people tutor people in reading? What's your literacy rate like in Alabama these days, dude? What are you looking at me like that for? I didn't make you red.
And go these places and listen and quit listening to people telling you the wrong things.
What? Go down there and listen and quit listening to people telling you the wrong things. Listen to people telling you the right thing. And what they'll tell you is, I wish our governor would turn down this unemployment insurance the way these other states have so people wouldn't have a choice but go back to work.
It's embarrassing that we run a country like this.
No, you don't run the country. You're a senator from Alabama. You live off the rest of the country.
It's embarrassing. Thank you.
You're embarrassed. This is his thing. So basically, he got into politics for ego, and he didn't think it was a kiss-ass fest he thought he would do. This is the same reaction. He's a Trumper, so this is the same reaction Trump has. I thought when you get this job, everybody kisses your ass.
Well, as you can hear,
Oh, boy. Well, as you can hear, there's a bunch of these states having real problems.
we have a problem in
I have not pre-watched this.
this country, and in our office, we call it the Biden bucks. The Biden bucks are
You think that's a slam? Biden bucks?
keeping people from going back to work.
Why? You just heard from 3 states that said we're turning down the UI so our people go back to work, and we're using some of it to incentivize people to go back to work. Why would anything that Biden do have anything to do with unemployment in your state if you have that option available to you? By the way, I don't appreciate that your hair is bigger than mine, and I need a little more length. Maybe if I flat iron. By the way, check this out though. Check the length of this. Look, this is starting to. It just reached collarbone. If I pull on it, it's right there. There's my collarbone, right there. Look at that. It's getting there. Oh man.
And in Tennessee, we have
Jesus Christ. I mean, that's amazing. What is happening to your head, woman? Did you just have an updo and then come straight from someplace? And yet there's a ruffle. I don't know there's a flattening situation. What's going on there? There's something. Are you smuggling something? Did she smuggle a flash drive out of a committee hearing?
255,000 jobs that are available right now.
Yeah, jobs I would never, ever offer up to my worst enemy.
We have 49,000 people that are still getting that plussed up unemployment.
Plussed up?
And
so there's 255,000 jobs available. Only 49,000 people are getting the additional UI. What about the other 200,000 jobs? Guess what? You want to guess what you want to guess how her constituents used to fill those 200,000 jobs? They filled them with people crossing the border illegally. All these states that are whining, Kansas, Montana, where they're going, we got all these jobs open and we can't fill them, or whatever. They filled them with undocumented workers. And now, because of COVID and because of the wall and because of Biden saying the border is not open and that the people that are coming across are not migrant workers, they're asylum seekers, and they engage in they actually, when they come in and join the community, many of them end up getting jobs equal to the jobs that they had in their other countries. And some of them are doctors and lawyers and people who could afford to make the trek and pay coyotes to get them across.
who got out because causing the brain drain in Guatemala and Venezuela and all those places. They're coming up here to live. They're not going to take a little job like that. They're going to open a business.
That is 5 jobs for every person. Take your pick.
5 of the same shit jobs that you used to fill with undocumented workers.
There are plenty of jobs there. Now, I want to thank...
Good. Quit your government job and go take one. Stop living off the public tit. Stop letting the taxpayers pay for your updo, and go take any one of those. I mean, I don't know why you would want to go to a cesspool swamp like Washington, D.C. when there's over 250,000 jobs available in your home state. Why would you ever want to leave Tennessee? Do you even Tennessee, bruh?
Thank my colleagues for coming up with a way to address the Biden bucks.
Yeah, you're spending them. I mean, some of them are sending them away. That already governors have the right to do it, but you're just taking the Biden bucks, spending the Biden bucks, and then pretending to hate the Biden bucks, and then taking credit for the benefit that the Biden bucks bring you.
To put this into wind down, so that we do get people back to work, we get life back to normal. That is what people are wanting to see.
Well, then why don't they just go back to work? They're wanting.
It is the right thing.
Yeah, this is Blackburn. This is Marsha Blackburn.
To do, to encourage.
I mean, this is some straight up Tammy Faye Baker hair. This is amazing. I half expect her to go, put 'em up, put 'em up.
People to return to work, to go to these jobs, to get life back to normal. As I said, 255,000 available jobs.
Go take one.
In the state of Tennessee.
Go get one. Pack it up. And announce your resignation. Say, I'm not going to work for the government anymore. It doesn't serve the people. And go work in private practice doing something.
49,000 people who are still taking unemployment.
A fifth of the people are getting this. I'm sorry, are those the 1/5 of those people? You don't have enough people to fill these jobs. That's what it is. Why are people moving out of Tennessee? Why aren't they there? Did ICE come in last year and scoop up all of your workers? Yeah, they did. That's exactly what happened. Jesus.
It's time to end this and get people back to work.
How?
So a week ago, we were on recess. And
Okay, at recess. And I was picked last for kickball. There's a strange situation going on with his upper lip and the consistency of the shave there. We'll let it go. There's also a bruise under the left eye or a red mark. I think it's just, normal man skin, but we don't know.
And I think...
Or a shadow from his glasses.
Eye of any senator...
Nope, that was something there. That looks like something's up.
The most recent off the street of running a business. I spent most of that week...
Oh, thank you. Look at that. Celer Averis.
...traveling around the state. I'm not going to repeat what's been said here.
Well, you can't because people don't like that kind of swearing. It's gnarly. Oh, look at that. Nice.
Coach said he's been here a little over 4 months. I've been here about 2.5 years, and this place will surprise you in terms of...
Why?
Some of the stuff that is done that is so counter to what common sense says to do, and just by...
That's because common sense is often wrong. It is not common sense to turn into a swerve. See what I mean? If your car starts to skid, turning into the skid does not seem like common sense would lead you to say that it's the exact opposite of what you should do.
By listening to people on the street. The other thing, pre-COVID.
By the way, he's not listening to street people.
We had the hottest economy that I've ever been a part of, and it's been 37 years.
Yeah, because the government was running a $1 trillion deficit. There was $2.5 trillion promised over 10 years for military spending, any place with a base around it, any place with a manufacturing base that actually built military shit was infused with cash. But it was all government money.
The business that I had to step away from, asked
Oh, you had to? You had to?
my son, my daughter, what's the biggest challenge we've got? Well, we got about 65 job openings that we can't get anybody to come to, and we pay the highest wage in the lowest unemployment county in the state of Indiana.
In the lowest unemployment county, meaning there are fewer workers. Here's a good idea. Advertise in the surrounding counties.
Something is wrong.
Yes, something is wrong. You're not telling us what those jobs are. You're not telling us what they are wage-wise compared to the... You may pay the highest in general, right? But what are you subcontracting out? I mean, this is all just a friggin'
Federal
story.
government, I think for reasons much broader than addressing COVID,
Yeah, socialism. Biden's trying to make us Venezuela.
has tried to step in, change the dynamic in this country where you can sell the idea that you live better through government than you do through the productive economy in places.
No. Literally, the Moody's guy came on and he was like, on Fox News, on Fox Business. And they were like, what do you think about the $1.9 trillion rescue package that Biden put through? And he's like, that's basically the sweet spot. That's the number you're going to need. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's the Goldilocks number for getting to full unemployment, or getting full employment in the next year by 2022. I mean, they've done the math on this. It checks out. Full employment.
Places like Indiana has a balanced budget, has a rainy day fund, does all the things that makes the government work, and now
Because they get federal funds and they can write off those things as part because of Republican, block grants and shit like that they've gotten over the years. That's where they got their rainy day fund from. P.S. Explain to us all why Pence lied on his voter registration.
and now we deal with this bizarro world where this place is trying to create a new paradigm.
What new paradigm? They didn't make permanent the UI extension. They just know that some businesses, a lot of small businesses, for example, and people who run those small businesses can't take another job while they rebuild their shop that went away because of COVID. If you had a small coffee shop or a restaurant in any of these Main Street in America places and you got wiped out by COVID, unlike a chain store or a Walmart or something like that, if you want to get back on your feet, taking a job at minimum wage while you rebuild your store and get back to where you can actually open and then have employees, the UI helps. Especially if it's you and your wife or your husband who are working together to have this business. You can stay above water. You can keep your kids in school. And you can get a loan, a PPP loan, to reopen your business. And over time, attract your employees back over the next 6 months. But to get back to where enough customers are going out, where you have a consistent customer base, where tourism is back. The flights aren't even back to normal yet if you're a fly-in kind of a place. That's exactly who this is for. What these assholes want is the really small business people, the mom and pop store people, not the chain operators, not the franchisees, not Marco Rubio's friend who owns 5 fucking restaurants in just the Miami-Dade area, but the individuals who they just run their little shop that was an Etsy store, but they managed to get a storefront because, during, over the last 5 years, they were able to start growing into that because of how they started. Those people are the ones who are getting this UI extension that are going to eventually be able to bring themselves back to a working level. Well, they'll have employees.
Here's the solution. Thank goodness you got the bill out there. Every governor, especially Republican governors, my state included, pull the plug so that we don't need to legislate. And blue state governors, if you want to keep people in your state, businesses in your state, they're leaving in certain places.
No, they're not. That whole story's been bullshit for a long time. You had 3 like high profile people leave for tax purposes from California to Texas, and then the power went out, and all that clamoring went away.
Do the same thing.
G, defy the leftist dream of a failing utopia to seek the one-time miracle one time. What? Yeah.
One
What?
more crisis. You can't get a yogurt parfait at Starbucks now for 6 days. I don't know what's happening, what shortage it is. I know there's the hackers that did it, but we got to get to the bottom of that as well. All right. Yeah.
You can't get a yogurt parfait. They were out, by the way. But, I mean, this dude thinks that's cute. They're talking about, 250,000 jobs unfilled in Tennessee. They're talking about people, a permanent shift towards socialism, which is garbage. And this is his little cute thing. Drink some water.
I think it's very difficult, right, to enforce. I mean, it had to be enforced at the state level. Florida's putting in that requirement, has it now, but that's a hard one to enforce. Look, ultimately, this was an issue of timing, and the timing, there was a year ago, you can make a very different argument, but now those jobs are there, and what I'm telling you is that ultimately what I fear most of all is that these businesses that are now operating under capacity because they can't get people to work,
They also don't have the customer base they had before either.
they need this time.
Some do, because they cater to the right-wing nutcases who think this is a plandemic. So the people that are bitching to these folks are all the people who have a lot of customers because they're the kind of business where those folks go. And they'll get an early start on everybody else. They'll also end up killing a lot more of their constituents and their customer base. But that's another thing.
Time to make up for all that lost revenue of being down for a year, 6 months or 8 months. By the time folks are ready to go back to work as this expires after Labor Day, there may not be a business for them to go back to. I'm worried about a second hit against our
They got PPP loans to go with it, stupid.
economy. I'd let my colleagues add to that.
It's not working now, right? It's obviously not working. Brian, you had one?
What are you talking about? It just happened.
Senator Marshall, a number of your colleagues have referenced other.
The Fed and every not just the Moody's guy, but everybody on Wall Street is going, yeah, we will hit a recession if we don't get an infusion of cash. And they're right. We were the economy was starting to slow as the UI benefits were wearing down because it wasn't ready to come back fully yet. And that's what this extension is about. And again, this is like the argument about minimum wage. 1.9% of workers. Same thing, she's like, there are 250,000 jobs available and 50,000 of these people are still getting these benefits. Like they're each going to take 5 jobs. Uniquely American.
Their governors are foregoing the enhanced benefits. Are you calling on Governor Kelly and Kansas to forego those, or as long as they're available, would you like Kansas to have access?
What was that? Are you calling on Governor Kelly of Kansas to forego those?
I'm absolutely calling on her to end the federal unemployment extra benefit. People will still get their $500 a week, but this would end the extra $300. And I would just encourage the.
You want Governor Kelly to do it on her own before the Biden administration acts. That's what I'm saying.
I would love for Governor Kelly to make the announcement today. I would suggest following our plan, we're going to cut the federal benefit in half in June, and by July 1st be in with it. But there's 2 components to this. Number one is it'll help the economy, but I'm really concerned about it.
By the way, this bill that they're talking about isn't going to pass. And most of the states that can do it are already doing it.
People's mental health as well. And Joni kind of talked.
Yeah, people would rather stay home and spend government money and go crazy. What?
About this a second ago. The greatest thing we could give a person right now is a
In the Midwest, they might work 2 to 3 jobs. I agree, Carlene. Yeah.
job that brings dignity and purpose to their life. If you want to solve the mental health crisis, number one, people need to go to a Royals baseball game, but number two, they need to get back to work.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. And I didn't think anybody could top out the parfait line.
As well. So yes, I sure hope that she'll give in here and do the right thing for the state.
She's not going to, and that was a big nose sniff. We're almost done with this. Sorry.
11 states have already starting to close out their unexpired benefits. So this is now a state issue where the governors...
Look at Rubio popping his mask back on. Because for the same reason, is that Saxby? Who's that leaving? Is that Chambliss?
I can address this a little bit as
Please do. Yeah, Joni, tell him what's what.
well, but there are so many entities that are operating in multiple states. Not all of them are going to be red states or blue states, but eliminating that federal government portion or stepping it down, it makes it an equal playing field across the board.
There we go. Okay, all right. Yeah. All those workers going to stay in those states, and as soon as it runs out, they'll go back to working at a job there, and those businesses that are in those blue states that had the extension are going to have a lot more workers to choose from than the people who had to leave the state to go find work or to get on, to find some. I mean, the larger states, obviously, than Iowa are going to gaining. They need enough workers. Same thing with Tennessee's problem. Marsha Blackburn, go fix Memphis. Go fix Knoxville. What was that exploding Winnebago all about? Go fix your state.
The board. I would say this should be a state issue, but there are many governors that aren't doing the right thing.
You mean the ones that are actually successful in dealing with this, and like California?
By those businesses that might be located in different areas. So you may have some.
She means franchises, by the way, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, she only gives a shit about the big franchisees.
People that are returning back to work in one entity, but they're not able to fill the jobs in another state. Let's even that out. Let's make sure that all the states are across the board playing on the same field.
Yeah. Yes. Everyone extend the UI to everybody, and then everybody's playing on it. Why do they have to? Why are you setting the low bar?
I think that's the best.
Memphis is unfixable? That's fucking sad. Memphis should be a cleaner New Orleans with its history and the music that came out of there. It's a shame.
And that's exactly why you have state unemployment. We're talking about the federal portion, and those states can deal with.
Then cut the state amount. There's an idea. Sorry, the state can't afford it. We don't have enough tax revenue because all these businesses are failing. So we're cutting, the states, the federal government's giving us 300. So we're going to cut the state amount by 300. Do that.
Deal with those issues. But I would say large in part, some of those are self-created issues. So as long as they have state unemployment, they still have that support network available. But what we're saying is the federal government is going to start stepping down. We will see people going back to work in those states where it makes sense to go back to work. And honest to goodness, I would say most states now can go back to work.
Yeah, we know. And they are. And it will take a little bit of time. But for those mom and pops, they're going to have to grind their way back and find a new place, a new storefront, all that kind of stuff, and can't compete with Kohl's and Walmart and Target and GNC and all the ones that can balance their, the ebb and flow of their finances. It's going to take longer, and those people will need more support. Those are the people who are going to be on it. Imagine the contempt for Americans this shows.
Well, because of the labor shortage, most of these places are paying more than they've ever paid before. The problem is, if you're, the cafeteria bakery that I know, they used to pay people $9.50 an hour. Now they're paying $13 an hour.
The horror.
But when you're selling pastries at 50 cents and 75 cents, there's a limit to how much you.
Nobody's selling pastries for 50 and 75 cents. Pastries. You mean donuts? Pastries. Who the fuck in Florida? Who is selling pastries for 50 cents? Shut the fuck up.
You can pay, but they're all paying more. Some are actually giving bonuses to employees that can attract other workers to.
Are they giving them are the bonuses in coins or in pastries?
No, because they're so desperate for the labor needs. Look, the labor numbers are there. One of the first things that dies in modern politics is common sense, okay?
Jesus Christ, this fucking common sense bullshit. I mean, Rudy Giuliani has beat that phrase to death. But, if you pay people, they're not going to do. If they got another option, they're not going to shovel shit.
we had a pandemic, we had an enhanced benefit because, you know, unemployment insurance exists as a short-term bridge between the loss of a job and finding a new one.
Right. And Joe Biden just made it permanent. Oh, wait, no, he didn't. He just extended it, what, 16 weeks or something?
We had a pandemic. We didn't let people open up. You couldn't find a job even if you wanted to. So people
Didn't let people? Didn't let people. We didn't let people. It wasn't out of concern for the people getting killed, disease spreading, making it worse, like watching the numbers go up. You just listen to that language and understand that this asshole looks at 600,000 dead Americans like, hey, man, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
So people had to live, and probably for an indeterminate period of time, and therefore we had this enhanced benefit. But now we have jobs available. And that's the moment in which you start to tailor it down. And that's the moment in which you do what we should have done, and that is, this thing is right now in the law, ends in late August, early September, right after Labor Day, irrespective of conditions. This should be conditions-based. Once you get to a point where you have...
Yeah, they want means testing on this shit. Here's the means, asshole. People were devastated by COVID. A lot of people are either not going to get vaccinated or refuse to do it. So therefore, until everybody else can get vaccinated or they have access to it, or they've been through the 6 weeks that you wait, signing up, depending on how fast it is. Some places are way fast right now. You can get your first dose right away. And then you got 3 weeks after that. And then 2 weeks after that your Pfizer clear, your Moderna clear, your J&J clear after that one shot, after a couple of weeks, after it's taken hold. That puts us into mid to late June. That's where you're getting 70% of the adults in the country getting vaccinated by July 4th. That doesn't mean they're all within their immunity cycle. Some people will get it on the 4th or the day before. And 2 weeks later, they will reach full immunity. And then they can start meeting with people to get a job and not Zoom with somebody and hope they're not a shitty boss.
You have a massive number of job openings and not enough people to meet them.
And that whole like clamping down ICE raids thing is starting to look a little like it was a diversion.
It's a pretty good indicator that on a macro level, the economy is in a place where that benefit is no longer needed. And I'm just telling you guys, look, it's not me saying this, okay?
Yes, it is.
All my staff in my office came back to work, and they're all working. They never lost their job. They were working from home. But in this particular case, it's people.
You mean your government employees?
Telling me this. All I'm telling you is what dozens and dozens of small businesses,
Frankly, the dozens and dozens of small businesses that support my candidacy every year and whom I work with.
Every business I interact with is telling me. That's all I'm sharing with you. It's a real problem. All right? Thank you. Get me an answer on the parfait yogurt thing.
Get me an answer on the parfait yogurt thing. God damn, that's pathetic. You can't come out there and wail and gnash teeth about some like huge threat to our economy and to our livelihood and people and the dignity of work and blah, blah, blah. And then your opening and closing gag is they don't have any parfaits available at Starbucks. What a friggin' creep. But I mean, he's never going to be president and this will peter out. And he's going to probably run for governor of Florida before, and that's where it will end. Man, is that pitiful.